This is a recorded interview with Mr. Henry Pels from London. Everything is all right. From Germany to England before World War II. But Mr. Pels will enlarge on the subject and tell us about some more of his activities. The interview is held at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem on April 18, 1966, and will be conducted in English. Mr. Pels, would you mind starting by giving me a few biographical details?
Yes, I am a native of Hamburg, Germany. I came to England in 1938, in May 1938, after I had lived all my life in Hamburg, but as a businessman. But in my spare time I had worked for the Keren HaTorah, which was an organization founded to support Jewish education, founded by the World Agudas Yisrael. This organization obtained for me a permit to work in England, and so I was one of the few lucky people who could escape from Germany with a family. My family, wife and 7 children, we came to England, actually with the intention to continue my work for the Keren HaTorah in England. But circumstances forced my way in a little different direction. In May 38, the people in England were already very much concerned what will happen to the Jews in Germany, and the president of the Agudas Yisrael Work Organization, Mr. Jacob Rosenheim, the late Mr. Jacob Rosenheim, he saw the necessity to found an organization in England which would be capable of rescue from Germany whenever necessary, at least a part of those in danger of life. He convinced a leading Orthodox personality, Mr. H.A. Goodman, and a very young rabbi, Dr. Solomon Schoenfeld, who had just occupied the rabbinate of the Adas Yisrael synagogue in North London, to go with him to the late Chief Rabbi J.H. Hertz, the Chief Rabbi of the United Synagogue in the British Empire, and to show him that he should put his authority at the disposition of those who are willing to work for the rescue of Jewish people from Germany, especially religious and students. He agreed. The Religious Emergency Council was founded, of which he became the chairman.
Rabbi Hertz?
Rabbi Hertz, the chairman, and Rabbi Schoenfeld, the executive director, and I was delegated from the Jewish World Organization of Agudas Yisrael to be the secretary of this organization, which in itself should be completely based on a neutral basis to ask for the support of all sections of Jewry and to work for all sections of Jewry without any distinction of their religious attitude.
I see. It was not planned just to help members of Aguda or of no.
In effect, this organization brought over amongst the rabbis not only Orthodox but conservative and liberals, almost in the same figure as the Orthodox.
Yes.
And
but you did try to bring specifically religious people
yes,
over.
Of course, as foundation, as the co-workers in this organization had contacts with Europe, in Europe, with the Orthodox sections of Jewry,
Yes.
it worked in the way that many religious people were brought to England.
Yes. But
As I
the
know-
workers on the committee were not necessarily members of the Aguda.
There were members as well, but in the executive light, yes, Mr. Rabbi Schoenfeld was an Agudist. He and Mr. Goodman, but Mr. Goodman was too busy with other interests. He did not take a special interest in the details of the work. But Dr. Schoenfeld put almost all his time into this work, and he chose his co-workers, besides the secretary, his other co-workers, as he found them available, mainly amongst the Orthodox people, that's true. And you are mainly interested to hear about the rescue of children.
Yes.
Therefore, I like to start that when 1938 the pogroms, in November 1938 the pogroms in Germany occurred, the real work started. We approached the Home Office and we got permission to submit to the Home Office permits for certain sections of German and Austrian Jewry who would be allowed to come to United Kingdom on the guarantee either of the council itself as a general guarantee or on private
mean, the
guarantees.
council?
The Chief of Religious Emergency Council,
Yes.
or on private guarantees, which of course were backed by the Chief of Religious Emergency Council. We started.
Do you remember who were the people who contacted the Home Office and who were the people?
Contact with the
at
Home Office did Dr. Schoenfeld.
Yes. And
He had the personal contact after an introductory visit by the chief rabbis to the Home Office secretary.
Yes.
The work was handled on our side by Dr. Schoenfeld, whom I supported as secretary, and by the departments of the Home Office concerned with immigration. When we received hundreds and thousands of informative news from Germany through the relatives of these people who were taken to concentration camps, and we worked in the way that we submitted lists of such religious officials to the Home Office.
Yes.
We obtained the general consent of the Home Office to this list, and individual entry permits to the United Kingdom were sent to the consulates concerned in Germany,
Yeah.
which immediately resulted in the release of the persons concerned from camps like Dachau, Belsen and other concentration camps, so they could prepare their immigration to England. When they came to England, they were supported by their families, but in most cases the council had to look after them. We had to collect the money which was needed to look after them.
Who financed the traveling expenses from?
No, travel expenses, people in Germany had enough to pay from their own. They realized their possessions, they couldn't take their possessions with them, or very little at least, and they paid for their fares, but as soon as they arrived with wives and children in London, the trouble started how to maintain them, which was a very big undertaking. We had a lot of guarantees which were given in bona fide, but soon it showed that people had not really understood what it means to give a guarantee and to keep alive a full family in London in circumstances where they had no permission and no possibility to earn money. They were not even allowed to earn money, no. Thus the government made a condition they should not work. Many of them
how
came
did the government expect them to live then? Just on
the community should keep them. many came in the hope to immigrate from London to America as soon as the quota numbers would be reached, but in many cases it was years and years they had to wait, and it was a concern of the council to find the necessary money to support them in a dignified way, not as other organizations did, that they had to turn up in the office and to be given the money. We sent all the money in registered letters to the head of the family, because they were all people who were not used to queue up on the dole and stretch out their hands to receive the money. We did not interfere in the education of their children, as otherwise it happened that we advised them, but we tried to keep their moral standard as high as possible. The transport of the children, we had one big transport of 250 children from Vienna, collected in Vienna from children, from families in Vienna and outside outside Vienna, yes. This list was completed in Vienna by friends of ours with whom we were in contact.
Yes.
And as soon as we got the permit, it was on a Friday
These
night.
friends belong to a
I don't know to which circles they belonged.
Yes.
I think the main basis of these people were the Schiffschule in Vienna. And we obtained on a Friday afternoon 250 permits for children, and we had to work during the Saturday night until we had finished all the passport particulars. And on a Saturday morning, Rabbi Schoenfeld walked to the Home Office because we were informed and courier would leave London for Vienna on Saturday afternoon, and we managed to get our papers.
You worked all through Friday evening
from Friday
and
evening into Shabbos, into late in the night. About 60, 70 voluntary workers worked in a school hall, and we finished our work in time so that this transport could be...
Do you remember the date when it was? 38, 39?
It was at the end of 38.
End of 38.
After the German pogroms. Before Austria was occupied, it was later that Hitler marched into Austria. And these children...
Before Hitler marched into Austria, but they were children from Vienna.
Yeah. And...
that means that it was in foresight of what might happen in Vienna.
Yes, the whole thing was in foresight, yes. And we prepared in London accommodation for them, either in homes which were already existing, or we encouraged congregations to establish homes for these children, and certain congregations took over a certain number of children in their homes.
Do you remember what age children they were?
I think the eldest of them were 16, up to 16, from younger ones up to 16. I remember, as far as I remember.
Yes, and they were individual children from individual families. They didn't belong to any organization there.
No. Youth organizations were not involved. We were approached. The children, particulars were collected in Vienna, most probably by local communities. I don't know how they prepared it. Everyone knew what would come, and everyone wanted to have his children in good hands outside Germany, outside the Hitler regime. And so it was, I think it was not difficult for them to
find candidates.
Yes.
Do you remember maybe the name of one of several people?
The main worker in Vienna was Mr. Julius Steinfeld, who, if he still lives, I don't know, then he lives in New York. Later on he went to New York, but he did that without any personal interest, not even interest in his own children. He did it purely
he was also
human.
from the Aguda. He was
a Agudist, yes.
So I suppose most of these children were also children from Aguda families, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Because in Vienna there were a lot of Hasidic families who were not Agudists, who stood even on the right side of the Aguda. Belzer and Gerrer, people, Hasidic circles.
And were some of their children included in this transport?
Hasidic children,
yes.
Yes. Many grew up in Britain and went later on in England and went later on to America. Or some cases the parents came later and joined their children. The children themselves worked for permits for their parents to come. And but most of them grew up in England and are now well-established members of the Jewish community in England. I don't think there is still contact between them because they have their own families, they have their own children. Sometimes I meet people who say, I remember you from the time when I came as a girl to London.
Yes.
But I think it was a very, very fruitful influence to the English community. It was like an injection.
Yes. And did you work at that time with any of the other Jewish organizations in London?
Of course. There was with the main rescue organization in London was the Jewish Refugees Committee,
yes,
with whom we worked in cooperation but independent. And we had the right, and the Home Office accepted our application for permits and did not force us to channel our applications to the Jewish Refugees Committee. Also, we were on good terms with them, yes, as everyone could see that good work was done. There was no difference between us and the Jewish Refugees Committee. And that can be said for the years of war as well, and for the years after the war.
Well, was there an advantage in having several organizations working and approaching the Home Office? Do you feel that it was better that way than to have it centralized?
We had a little bit different attitude to the question of permits. We gave guarantees based on our goodwill to find the money. The Jewish Refugees Committee did a different way. They asked effective deposits from the relatives of the people, or from people who were capable to give such guarantees, which in many cases did not work so quickly and so efficiently as if you are a little bit more lenient in these things. And our main concern was to save lives. There was not time actually to spend on negotiations and information about the capability of the people to imply their permits, their guarantees. And we had better connections with the religious parts in Europe and were capable to do that. We worked in cooperation with English organizations as well. For example, we brought over teachers and readers of synagogues, and the Association of Jewish Readers in England cooperated with us, supplied us with information of the names of the people, and supported us and encouraged us to bring them over by promising to help us later to maintain them. So it worked this way. Whether it would have worked to the same extent if we would have to cooperate with one single body, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't want to
understand.
give an opinion on that. I only know that it was, the house was burning and we had to rescue what we could without looking much after formalities.
And you also had in England, if I understand correctly, the representative of German Jewry who had the Central British Fund and the...
we were Central British, we were supported by the Central British Fund, especially in the war years and the after-war years. In the after-war years time, there was a half-official government body for relief abroad, Committee for Relief Abroad. We were members of this committee. This enabled us immediately after the cessation, the war stopped, to send our own people to the camps. And we, it was Dr. Schönfeld's idea to send mobile synagogues. That means big vans which contained food, kosher food, and contained religious requisites, and tents to have services arranged in the open, and people were put in charge of these vehicles who were capable to arrange such things and to contact the Jewish people in the camps. Besides that, we sent Jewish personalities, rabbis and lay leaders to Germany as social workers in uniform, supported by the British authority. We sent them to the British zone, and there they had the support of the local commanders to help people who were in camps to establish themselves. When I came to Belsen, there was already a Jewish community with all things which belonged to a Jewish community established, and the commandant of Belsen, whom I visited from polite visit, he was willing to do whatever I would suggest. It was still necessary to give them the freedom to express a religious feeling which they had been unable to do for so long. And Belsen became the centrum of the refugees from the camps, because they heard there you can have everything you like. We sent food through the Committee for Relief Abroad, and big quantities of kosher food we sent to the camps, to our representatives in Germany.
To return 1 minute to the period before the war.
Yeah. Besides the children, you want to know what we
No,
did?
I just wanted to find out exactly the affiliation with the Aguda. Was this actually the activity of the Aguda as a movement? You mentioned that the leading people there were Agudists.
Yes.
Was it? Would you say that this was an activity of the Aguda, or it happened?
You can't say so. The Aguda had a big share in it,
Yes.
but I would not say that the Mizrahi did not have a share as well. It was a work supported morally and financially by both organizations, actually by all circles who considered themselves religious and wanted religious people to be rescued and to be established in the country. It was not, the initiative, it definitely came from the Aguda, and co-workers in the office were mainly Agudists, but we enjoyed the support of the Mizrahi leaders and Mizrahi circles as well.
I ask this question because of the question of the Zionist view of the Mizrahi, whether there was any idea of sending on these youngsters to Palestine at the time, or whether, let's say, the British considered it, since it was Aguda which was not Zionist, that they might give more to the Aguda than they would have given to the Mizrahi.
Actually, we tried to go a middle way. Not in the eyes of many people, it was considered an Agudist affair. But we thought different. We wanted to help everyone, as Hitler didn't make a difference between Jew and Jew, so we didn't want to make a difference. And this is a fact that quite a number of rabbis now established as liberal rabbis and leading liberal rabbis in England came over on our initiative. When the chief rabbi got letters about people who were in need and wanted the permit, he passed it on to us, and we did not make any differentiation. We had given this promise, as far as I know, to the chief rabbi, and we kept it. He knew he wanted to give his support to all sections, and there he said, we can't make a difference. Whoever comes and needs our help has to have it. So leading liberal rabbis from Germany, in Germany there was a distinction even sharper than it was in England. That we knew exactly, Dr. So-and-so, he was a liberal rabbi in Dortmund, and he was a liberal rabbi in another town. That was no difference to us. Not in bringing over and not in maintaining them.
Yes. And what would you say in general was the attitude of the Home Office when you applied for permits?
The Home Office was very sympathetic. They relied on us, they accepted our word, and once the list was approved, we had no difficulties to get the permits and to send the permits sent direct to the districts in which the people concerned lived. And we got the information and passed our information to the relatives as well, so they knew there is a permit at the consul, you can go and get your visa.
Did you have a big staff working with you?
Not a big staff. We were, yes, at time our staff was, well, I come to this, actually the office staff was 10, 15 people, not more.
Were they mostly volunteers or were they paid workers?
No, these were paid people,
workers, yes. Full-time paid
workers. But during the war we started collecting old clothes and dried fruit and such things. There we had separate branches. We had houses where we stored these clothing and repaired them and make them ready for the moment when we would be able to ship them to the congregations or to the concert, to the camps, to wherever it was requested. I said already, that's what your main interest is in the children.
Yes.
But we brought over not only children, but as I said already, religious leaders from the communities.
Now, to come back 1 minute to the children, if I understand correctly, of those 250 children, most of them were placed in children's homes, not in
children's
families.
Homes and in families.
And in families. Could you
but
say approximately?
The German families willing to take them were only new immigrants
themselves,
without any financial basis,
yes.
and with their own children and not capable.
Why do you say the German families? Weren't they placed in English
the
families?
English, yes, there were English families too.
Yes.
But not very many. No, and the difficulty of the language made it difficult for
yes.
children coming from Germany to feel homely in English families. There were quite a number of Orthodox families to whom we could give children, who brought them up like their own children. But the bulk had to go into homes.
Now, I guess at that moment your idea about the education was a question of a temporary solution. What did you think of at that time?
Well, the education of the children was a concern of the local committees who looked after these children.
I see. But you thought that these children would stay in England and grow up there?
Yes. Well, there were Jewish Schoenfeld who worked, Dr. Schoenfeld, whose work was this. He was at the same time the founder of Jewish day schools in England. He had a school himself, and more schools were established at the time, and part of the children were already educated in these day schools.
Now I'm referring here to, for instance, the efforts of the Bachad, who brought children or youngsters in the youth aliyah, the religious part of youth aliyah, but their idea was to transfer them to Palestine as soon as possible.
Yes.
But
Mr. Handler, the head of the Bachad in London, who is now, no, he's not in
no, he comes here occasionally.
He comes here occasionally, yes.
Yes, I spoke to him.
He was very friendly with Dr. Schoenfeld, and wherever the children were suitable to be brought into the Bachad, they did go, but the Bachad started only with after-school age children. First they had to get education, and the Chalutziyut for Israel started only, preparation for Chalutziyut to Israel started only after school age.
Yes, no, but so they had within the frames of the youth aliyah, they also had.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
The youth aliyah brought from England children. I don't know. I can't tell to you today whether and how many of our children went through the youth aliyah later on to Israel. That I don't know.
All right. What else would you like to add to information about after the war? Did you?
Yes, after the war. After the war, we continued our rescue work for children from Poland. Dr. Schoenfeld himself went to Poland and collected children and brought them to England on permits of the Home Office, in the same way as he had done before the war.
What was the idea then, to bring them to England, to settle in England?
In Poland there was a terrible position, the Jews were in a terrible position, and all the parents wanted their children to be forerunners for them. And so what the idea was, either for the children to be kept in England up until the parents could come, or those without parents to prepare them for immigration to Israel or to USA, whatever, wherever relatives were willing to absorb them.
With what organizations did he work when he brought children from Poland? Was he in contact with other?
That I don't know.
You don't know?
No. I only know we got the information from various sites, and who I can't tell you, I can't remember who were his immediate counterparts in Poland. I don't know, can't tell you. But amongst them, I know that quite a number of them remained in England. Perhaps information about this could be taken from his book.
All right.
I can't remember the title.
All right. Well, if you'll send it to me, or
yeah,
if you write me the name.
No, I will send it to you. You can use it for your purpose, or you can find out whether there is a copy. Perhaps
there's probably a copy
in London, a copy which I could send you to be kept here
for the library.
For your library. If
yes.
there is none,
yes.
certainly I will try if that's still available.
Or maybe there are even some other reports of the work of the committee which have been published.
We publish our reports continuously, but I haven't kept these particulars for myself. I don't know whether they are in the libraries.
Well, I guess at one moment the Jewish Chronicle probably used to publish reports on your activities.
In general, supported our work, as he supported any kind of rescue work.
Yes,
certainly. We had supporters and branches and supporters in all cities of England. I remember I was in Glasgow with Shifra. I spoke in Glasgow for
Did your committee have branches in the various towns?
No, we didn't
No.
do it. We had subcommittees, we called it. Support committees.
Yes.
I am now 75 and my memory is not so strong anymore that if I read the things that may come back to my memory, I may read the book when I come home and give you some hints what was the information which you are interested in. You
All
can
right.
find it.
Well, we'll type this out and send it to you, and
Yes.
you can make any additions or changes.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you very much.